Okay, so right here we're looking at the 4-hour chart, and you can see that it did indeed just this morning in the pre-hours zip up to that 78.6% Fibonacci line that I said I thought it was going to head to yesterday. It didn't quite get there yesterday, but it did head up there today. So we are sitting at a resistance level right now. That's step number 1. Step number 2, we are definitely in an uptrend. So there's definitely conflicting information going on. If you look at the MACD on the 4-hour chart, it does look like it's about ready to tip and drop. I can also see the evidence of that on the 1-hour chart here. That, and in conjunction with it being at a resistance level, I would say we're either looking at a drop day or a sideways day at this point. So now for the trade position that we want to take, let's go to the next slide here. All right, and we see that on the 15-minute chart, it has been dipping down, but there is a possibility of it turning soon. So we want to be cautious. This is looking like it's going to tip over as well. This is looking like it's dropping. So all things considered, I think even though it's kind of sitting at the gold SMA here, or the orange SMA, I guess the 20 SMA, which is a support level, I think a short is the best way to go. There's just a few more pieces of evidence pointing towards the fact that it's going to drop than to go up. And I don't disagree with that looking at the charts now either. The other thing I did is I drew in a channel that kind of showed the uptrend and the tops and bottoms that I think it might be hitting, and it's near the bottom of an uptrend channel. So, I mean, there is a possibility of it going up as well, though I'm not really seeing a lot of evidence toward that right here. So I got into a short right there, and I put in a stop order up here, and I put in a limit order, exit order down here, which I had hoped it would get filled. The gap up here would be a huge loss, and we're looking at maybe like a $300 or $400 loss if it did hit that stop. So that's kind of painful. All right, when it got up to this point, I was worried about it hitting that stop. I really didn't want to do that. And so I was starting to see evidence of it turning. You can see that on the MACD here, and just on the general uptrend of the market. And also the 15-minute chart here also started to turn and went up. And so I decided before it got all the way up to my stop, I was just going to go ahead and roll with it. I was going to reverse my position. So at a point where I was at a $237 loss, I reversed and got into a long position. I wrote it up a little ways and put in an exit order right at or just a couple ticks below the highest that it's been for the day. And it did not take. Or it did take, that's what it was. It did take, excuse me, and then it it started to drop, so I did a short at this point. And I sandwiched the order here and got out at a profit on that one. So I'm pretty much out of the hole at this point in my third trade. Okay, and at this point, even though we are sitting at that support level again at that orange SMA, I tried another short again. I probably should have waited until I saw some more evidence of it dropping, but the MACD was looking like it was still dropping. I don't know. It's a little hard to tell, but maybe should have waited till it went up at that point. It did drop through, but then it immediately bounced back up again. Now, if you notice, the peak is lower. So I would say we are, and you can see that on the RSI as well, we're definitely losing momentum through this area right through here. So I'm holding on to this short even though it's going up. And I decided to put in a stop order right there, which I lowered as it went below where I got in. And I believe it dropped. Yep, and it hit my limit order, and so I canceled the stop. So I made about 100 and maybe 112 on that trade. Okay, this is my fourth trade now, and I'm still seeing evidence of it dropping some more. We're losing momentum. This is still pretty low here, but now on the 30-minute and the 15-minute charts on the MACDs, we're definitely seeing some loss of momentum and turning. So I'm in a short here at this point. And again, I didn't get in at a very good place. I don't think the trade itself, I think being in a short is a good idea. But I got in too soon perhaps. And so I stopped myself out before I got too far into the hole again. I lost all that profits. Now I'm back in the hole a little bit, but not a lot. Okay, this is where I should have waited to get in. So I did a short at this point. That was a good trade and almost immediately got back out again at $150 profit. So that was a good trade. Okay, and then it bounced up, and as soon as it started to show signs of it turning, and notice again that the peak is lower than this peak, and we can kind of make out that the MACD is turning a little bit through here. So I got into another short right here, and I'm hoping to just get it down to that point, which isn't very far. And sure enough, it dropped down to that point, and I got out, and that was my 7th trade. And now I'm at a $287 profit for the day, and it is 9:49, so it's not even 10 o'clock yet. I thought about stopping, but I felt like, normally I like to go to 10 if I can, and I'm not quite to where I'd like to be for the day, and I really feel like I'm starting to get the hang of what's going on for the day. So I decided to keep trading. Okay, when it dropped down to that red line right there, which is the Fibonacci line, it also happens to kind of match up with near the bottom of that purple channel that I drew, and it showed possible signs of a reverse. The 2000 tick chart and the 15-minute chart's a little bit premature yet. I'm not seeing a turn there. And the 30-minute chart is definitely still showing signs of it dropping. So I do want to be cautious here, but I think probably it going up to this point is a very likely scenario. So I got into a long, and you can see I put in my exit order 1 tick below that, but then it dropped pretty far, and I lost my profit again. So I was waiting for a bounce so I could either reverse or get out at a better place, and it came up pretty nicely here. And so I'm still hanging on, hoping that it will get up as far as that. And here is where I got in, so it's almost break even at this point. I lowered my limit, and it went up a little further, and now we're seeing the MACD looking really good right through here. All right, so I got out at a little bit lower place than I had intended, I think, and then it dropped, and I decided to do a short. So I'm in another position, and I am more in line with what I'm seeing longer term. So that's good. All right, so a short, hoping for a drop down to the lowest that it's been. There, looking good, except for the short-term MACD, which of course it went way, way, way up and continued up through here. And I just keep hanging on because I'm pretty sure I'm going to see a big drop because we're looking at the long term to kind of weigh in on that. So for better or worse, I waited this one out. I'm just now seeing it turn and drop, so I'm hopeful that it will drop further. But at the moment, I am at a loss of 425. Now I'm at a loss of 575, and I decided, well, maybe I was wrong, and it has now increased and went higher than the peaks we've seen here. So maybe a reverse would be better. So I got into a long at this point and started to watch it drop. And then I lost money on that trade as well. I'm at a $912 loss. So I guessed wrong here, didn't hold on, reversed, and now it's dropping. Like I thought it was going to drop right through here, but then got scared and doubted myself. All right, so we are dropping now, and I'm in a long, so this is not good. Keeps dropping, and I actually got it up to a loss of like over $1,000. And I kept hanging on, hoping that maybe it would come back, and it did. So here's where I got into that long, and I'm almost right where it happened, and then it increased over that. So this is where I drew in a Fibonacci line, a short-term Fibonacci line, starting here, this peak, and then that trough right there. Or you can actually see it on the main screen. This one, and this one. It was a little tricky to figure out exactly where to go. I mean, I could have done it here, here, and here as well. But I actually thought when I drew this one, it lined up pretty well. You can see this was kind of a ceiling that it formed right here. And there was no other reason to think that it would form a ceiling at that point right there. I think the Fibonacci line explains that pretty well. So the fact that it has actually broken above that Fibonacci line, I'm in a long here. I really think it might get all the way up to that next Fibonacci line. That's what I was hoping for. Now already I've made a decent trade right through here, and I whittled my losses back down to 425 again. It petered out and didn't quite get up that far. And so I'm just watching it like a hawk right through here. The MACD is just starting to lose momentum, unfortunately, and I don't know if that's going to hold or not. So I lowered my exit order down to here, and then it dropped through, and I didn't get filled. So I'm starting to lose money again at this point. When I saw this green candle, was pretty hopeful, so I lowered my order yet again and decided I'm just going to be happy with a smaller trade right through here. So got out there. That's good because it immediately dropped through there. And now I've whittled my losses down to 450. Made 10 trades so far, and it is now almost 11. So the reason I like to stop at 10 usually is because it does slow down a lot and you get stuck trading like all day long and not really making anything, not really getting anywhere. So that means that I am doing other things, maybe getting a little distracted, and that is not a good way to trade. But I did. All right, so big drop, and it kind of went down to the SMA on the 15-minute chart here. And also that pink line right through here, which is the peak that we see off the screen. That was a support level. Okay, and then it blew through that. And we can see it went down to now the blue SMA. And we can see on the 15-minute charts the bottom of the channel, which doesn't quite match up with the channel that we see here, probably because this is ticks and that's time, but I'm not positive about that. It's just interesting. I would go more with the channel that I drew over here than what we see over here. So don't use that as a support level. Alrighty. So I'm still holding on to waiting. I'm not trading right now. But then when it got down to this point and formed a green candle, I decided to ride it up. I really thought with that huge drop, it's probably going to recover a little bit. So I got into a long. And it's looking good. I put in a stop that's pretty tight there. Looking really, really good. And so I got out here when it hit that Fibonacci line and it started to slow down. Thought that was a really good trade, even though the MACD looks like it might be going up further. That was good enough for me. So my 11th trade, I made over $200 and whittled my losses now to 262. So it's looking good. I'm hopeful. I think I'm going to keep trying to get myself out of the hole and figure out what in the world is going on. Okay, so I waited for it to hit the SMA up here and tried to figure out which direction I wanted to go with that. Went through it. Now the MACD is just turning. And so that was a pretty good recovery. I decided to do a long. And in hindsight, I'm not sure that was necessarily the best way to go because we've kind of already hit a support level or a resistance level, I mean. But we'll see what happens. All right, sure enough, that kind of peaked out there and dropped back down. And at some point, I actually did a reverse, I think. And so I am now in a short at this point. When that red candle happened, I think I immediately switched over to a short. And I would say that was a good move because now the MACD looks like it's going to lose some momentum. Okay, okay. I put an exit order in down here on the Fibonacci line, which also lines up with the blue SMA. And I'm in a short, hoping it drops. It's kind of going flat. And then it went up for a good while. And then it came back down. And I decided at this point that I would just get out here. And I can't remember exactly where I got in, but I didn't quite make it all the way down to this point. Didn't take. Okay, so now so that was my 13th trade. Now my 14th trade, I see a recovery happening here. The MACD does not look good though. So I got into a long and I'm hoping for a very small trade right here. Looks like I'm going to get filled. So that's good. All right, and then my 15th trade, I got into a long when it dropped back down again. And hoping that it gets up to this point. MACD is looking good. Kind of went flat for a good long while. And then it started to drop right through here. And so I decided to reverse. I didn't think it was going to make it up there after all. So I got into a reverse here. And then I must have placed an exit order, which I'd forgotten about because I walked away from it. I was pretty sure it was going to drop. I actually got distracted with something else, came back, and it's like, oh, wow, this is awesome. I got, all this profit here. So I placed what I thought was an exit order, and turns out I wasn't even in position anymore. So I must have gotten out at some point, and so I accidentally placed a long order, which I really don't think was a good idea. Didn't really want to be in that at all. So I lost about $300 trying to recover from that. Got into a short again. So I got into a short right about here and thinking that it might drop down a bit more. And then I changed my mind and put my limit order up right through here. I just wanted to get out at, break even. So I did, which I was really glad that I did. And then when it went up to this point and hit a resistance level, I did another short and it's dropping very nicely. But that means that I didn't quite get filled either. So I kept chasing it down. Finally got into a short, dropping very nice trade. I put in an exit order down here at the bottom that it had been before, but it bounced up. And so I wasn't sure exactly what was going on here, if it was going to make a big recovery or if this is just an attempted recovery and then it will drop some more. Kind of in a bad place right here. I decided to hang on just because I do think we're seeing a lot of downward momentum, except for on the short term. I'm at a $512 loss again, unfortunately. Okay, I didn't have much time to wait. It dropped down to where I'd gotten in and looked like it was a good strong red candle. Dropped down further. I put in an alert at that point and lowered my order because it was such a strong drop. I thought perhaps it would even get down to like the SMA over here, maybe being a little bit greedy, and decided, no, I don't want to wait it out. I want to get out right here. So I've whittled my losses down to 137 now, 19 trades. All right, so actually ended up going below that point. So that tells me we've still got some more downward momentum to go, but we have to wait for a leg upward before we can do another short. And if I even want to do another short, I didn't know. Well, the leg upward was very small, and I kind of missed the opportunity to get into a short, but I did here, and I did when I saw that it broke through that blue SMA over here, which I thought was acting as a support. So I got into a short here and then got out after I made maybe $100. So now I've gotten my profit back up to 25 minus my 20 commissions, which is going to be considerable. So actually, all together, I actually made a small loss today, even though, it showed that I was, $20 to the good. So that was a pretty wild trading day. I actually traded all the way till 12:49, which was ridiculous. And I'm happy to stop for today. Don't want that to happen again, but I'm glad it wasn't worse than it was.